Okay, let's continue. In this video, I want to work on the idea cards. So these cards right here. So let's get started. So back to our code, let's add a new container for these ideas underneath our filters here. And I will name it ideas container. And let's give it some space in between, space Y6, and a margin on the top and bottom. And let's put a comment here. And ideas container. So let's start with one idea container. So let's name it idea container singular. Again, let's end the comment so I can see what I'm doing. And idea container. And let's add some classes here. So it's white. Rounded XL should be the size of our rounded corners. Or it's not exact, but I'm just using rounded XL, which is fine for now. So it's going to be a flex container. So this side will be the first flex item, and this will be the second one. And then the second one will be a flex container as well. This will be the first item, and this will be the second item. So let's do that. So flex, and that's fine for now. So the first flex item is, like I said, this section with the votes and the vote button. So let's do that. So there's a border on the right, so border R. And let's make it a very subtle gray, like in the design. Not 800, 100, sorry. And I forgot the dot, sorry. And let's add some padding. I have PX5 and PY8, okay? And in here, let's make another container to center the text. And this will be the number of votes. So this, in this case, and then another one for the word votes underneath. So this is semi-bold, font semi-bold, and text 2XL, 12, and then another one underneath. This is text small, actually that's default, so that's fine. And text gray 500. Votes. See how that looks. And it looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and add the vote button. So this button right here, as you see, it changes based on if you voted or not, but we'll stick to the gray one for now. So let's make another container here. Margin top of 8. And let's go ahead and make a button here. So button dot width 20 is what I have here. So I'm hard-coding the width so it doesn't change when I'm clicking vote or unvote. I have BG Gray 200. It's bold. And it's text XS. And also uppercase. And rounded XL. Lots of classes here for the button. And some padding. So PX4 and PY3. And say vote. Okay, see how that looks. Okay, looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and add a transition on this. So the transition I have is a border, I believe. A subtle border when you hover over it. So let's do that. So we have to give it a default border. So border in the same color as the button. So border gray 200. And then when we hover, let's put it right here. Hover border gray 400. So that should work, but without a transition. It does, cool. So let's go ahead and add a transition. So we can pretty much just copy what we have before. So I believe it's in the app blade transition. So all of this stuff right here. Ease in. So yeah, this, okay. And space that in. Where's my button? Here. Let's put it right here. Okay, see if there's a transition now. And there is, cool. Pretty happy with that. Actually, the text size I have here is one smaller than this. So the typography scale, XS is the smallest one. So I added an extra one here. That's extra, extra small. So let's take a look at the default Tailwind config for, what is it called? Font size, maybe? Yeah, font size. So XS is the smallest. But like I said, I have an even smaller one. So let's add that. So I'm going to extend the font size, and I'm just going to paste it in, And this size is 0.625, so one smaller than extra small. And the line height is it the same or is it slightly smaller? Line height's the same, that's fine. Okay, now let's change that. So I already changed it. Let's see if it's slightly smaller. Oh yeah, I have to npm run dev. Okay, and yeah, that looks smaller. Cool. Next is the image. So let's do that. So this is the first flex item, and we have to make another flex item here, which is going to be flex as well. So dot flex, let's give it some padding, px2, py6. And if I didn't mention this already, it looks like I know what values to pick, but that's just because I'm referring to the finished product in my other monitor. But in reality, you're going to be tweaking these values and going back and forth between the browser and your code. And let's add an image here. Actually, this should be a link, so I'll put it within the anchor tag. Should be a link to the person's profile page. So yeah, let's put it within an anchor tag. Okay, and an image. Let's just say avatar here. And let's give it some classes. So class, I have width 14, height 14, and oops, height 14 and rounded XL like we've been using. So for the image, I'm just making use of the Unsplash API for now. So I'm going to paste in the URL. So you can give it a size. And if you do face or a query string of face and crop equals face, then it will crop it to what it thinks is a face. And I have v equals 1, so I can have multiple images. So this should work. It should be an image of a person, okay? What's next? Next is the title, so let's add that. Okay, so that's going to be another flex item within this flex container. So I have some margin on the left and the right. And this is the title. I have it as an H4. So whatever you want, you can pick here. Say text XL. It's semi-bold. And it's a link as well. So let's say A. And let's say hover underline for now. And let's put a title in here. So a random title can go here. Okay. See how that looks? Looks good. And next should be the text. So if you look at the design, yeah, it's this text here. So let's go ahead and add that. Should be underneath the H4. So let's say text gray. I have it as text gray 600. Margin top. And that's good enough for now. Say lorem 100. Okay. And that squished our image. Let's see if we can force it to not change size. So flex none, will that do it? So yeah, that did it. Okay. Okay, now let's work on this section here. And if you look at the design, you'll see that this description is limited to 3 lines, and we'll work on that in a second. But for now, let's work on this section here. So again, flex, justify between. This will be the first flex item, and this will be the second flex item. So let's do that. So let's put it underneath our paragraph here. So again, flex, items center, justify between, and let's give it a margin top. So this will be the first flex item, and it will be flex as well. So let's do that. So again, flex, items center. I have it as text extra small, or XS, font semi-bold, and some space in between. So space X, 2. And let's set the text color here as well. So text gray 400. Okay. And let's see how this looks. So let's add one for 10 hours ago, which is the first item. And then for the second item, I usually make use of mid dot and mid dot like this, but that's too small. Let's take a look. I think it's 2Ds. Yeah, so you see a dot there, but I kind of want a bigger dot, and there's another encoded string you can use called bull, which is short for bullet, I believe. Yeah, it's slightly larger. Okay, so let's fill in the rest. What we have here, category and 3 comments. So let's add one for category, or whatever category they chose. So say category 1, and one more for comments. So let's say 3 comments. Okay, see how that looks? Okay, it looks good. And on the right, we have this status indicator and also this button, which opens up a dialog for mark as spam and delete post. Let's go ahead and work on that. So underneath here, it's going to be the same. So flex, items, center, space x2. And the first flex item is the status indicator. So this one is gray, this one in particular. So let's work on that one for now. So BG gray 200 is what I'm using. Text XXS, so extra extra small. It's bold. It's uppercase. I'm using leading none. Not sure why I'm using that, but let's add it anyways. Rounded full. Say text center. And again, I'm hard coding the width so they don't change the size. And I'm also hard coding the height, apparently. And PY2. And PX4 is my status indicator. And in this case, it's open. Okay, see how that looks? Okay, it looks pretty good. Actually, I believe this comment should be a darker color. Yeah, it is. So let's change that to something else. So to say whatever the default was. So 900, I think. Does that look okay? Yeah, it looks fine. Okay, let's work on the 3 dots and the dialog here. So let's make a button for this. So that would be this next item here. So button, it's going to be relative because we have to place an SVG in there. Actually, I don't think it has to be relative, so we'll leave that off for now. Let's say BG gray 100. Let's say hover BG gray 200. Oops, that should be a dot. Let me just expand this for now. And let's make it rounded full. And let's force a height here. So same as the status indicator. And in here, we have to put an SVG. Actually, let's see if this works first. Let me just put some text. Text. Okay. And that looks fine for now. I think we have to add the transition as well. So same as we've been doing. So let me just grab this. And let's place it there as well. Let's put it here. Okay. And let's go ahead and look for an SVG for 3 dots. So like I've been doing, I usually use Heroicons. So let's look for dots. And this one is okay, but it's designed to be near the bottom of the bounding box. So if this were the bounding box, it would be somewhere around here. But I want it to be in the center. So I didn't use this one. And unfortunately, I don't remember where I got the one I'm using from. But if you look for 3 dots SVG, you'll find a whole bunch of results. And you can just try which one works for you. But yeah, I'm just going to paste in the one that I found. It was a free one, so shouldn't be too hard to find one. And let's replace this with this. And let's see how this looks. Back here. And yeah, it looks pretty good. I think I forgot the padding. So let's add PY2, PX3. So same padding as this. Well, no, this is PX4. Or same Y padding. The X padding doesn't matter. So yeah, it looks pretty good. The transition looks good too. Okay, so let's add the dialog now. So this dialog. And Now I remember why this was relative, because that dialog has to be absolutely positioned. So let's make this relative. And let's make the dialog underneath the SVG. So let's make it an unordered list. Let's make it absolute. Let's make it a width of 44 is what I'm using. Is 44 defined? Let's see. I don't think it is. No, it's not. So let's say 64 for now. It's semi-bold. Text SM, actually that's default. BG white. Shadow, say large for now. Rounded XL. And PY 3. Okay. So let's add a list item in here, or there's only two. So li, a, and I'm putting the classes on the anchor tag, so let's do that. So I want it to hover gray, or BG gray 100, and say px5, py3. And the transition is the same as we've been doing. So let me just paste that in from my clipboard. And let's see if this looks okay. So let me just see how one looks for now. And it is not rendering because I didn't put anything in here. So the first one is marked as spam. Okay. There we go. And the hover does work. Cool. Why is it not full width? Let's see if we put, maybe make it block or inline block. Block's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. And the other item is delete post. So let's add that, or just duplicate this and say delete post. Okay, so now let's just change the width here. And like I said, I have a custom width here for width 44. So let's add that. So what's 44? 44 divided by 4 is 11. So let's add that. Tailwind config, spacing 44 is 11 rems. Okay. npm run dev. And let's see if it's more narrow now. Well, it's done compiling. It does. It is, I mean. And that looks good to me. Cool. Actually, why is it centered? I don't think it's supposed to be centered. Yeah, it's supposed to be left aligned. So let's add that. I think we can add that on the unordered list. So let's say text left. Okay, cool. Looks good to me. And let's bump this over to the right a bit. Maybe we can add a margin left right here. Margin left of, I don't know, 8 maybe. So that looks good to me. Okay. And we'll toggle it using Alpine in a later video. Okay, now let's work on limiting this description to 3 lines like it is in the design here. And there is a CSS property for that called line clamping. And there is a Tailwind plugin that we can use to do that. So it's called Tailwind line clamp. And here it is right here. Let's go ahead and install this. And we have to add it to our plugins in our Tailwind config. Let's add that down here. Let me just put this on its own line. Okay. And let's add the Tailwind line clamp. Indent this. npm run dev again. And it's pretty straightforward to use. We just have to add the line clamp utility and however number of lines that you want. So line clamp 3 in our case. So wherever that big blob of text is, right here. Where is it? Right here. Line clamp 3. That should limit it to 3 lines. And it does. Cool. So yeah, it looks pretty close to the design we have here. So I'm pretty happy with that. One more thing, if you look at the design for this one in particular, you'll see that there is a shadow around this one, but these ones don't have shadows around them. So to me, that means that Adrian, our designer, is trying to communicate the fact that this is a hover state. So let's go ahead and add that. So let's look for the entire container. So in this case, it's the idea container like I added before. And we can say hover, shadow, whatever. Let's just say shadow MD for now. And let's see if that works. And it looks like it does. Let's go ahead and add our transition like we've been doing. So it's somewhere in my clipboard. There it is. And now we should have a transition. And we do. Cool. So right now we're using Tailwind shadows, which I usually make use of. But in this case, I want to respect Adrian's decisions here for the shadows and use these shadows instead. So we have two here, and they're both different. We have one for the dialogue and one for the card. So let's go ahead and make custom shadows in Tailwind to account for this. So let's start with the card. And in Zeppelin, you can actually click on it and you'll get the CSS down here for it. So here's the exact parameters for this shadow. So let's go ahead and copy this. And we can just add a new key that extends the box shadow in Tailwind. So again, if you look at the default config, there should be a box shadow in here somewhere. There it is. And we can just add a new one and name it whatever we want. So let's do that in our Tailwind config. Wherever we are extending Tailwind. So let's put it after the max width. Right here, box shadow. Actually, let's add the key for it. Box shadow. And let's name this first one card. Okay, let's paste that in. And we don't need this box shadow here. And that should be good. Let's put this in quotes. Let's add the other one. Let's call that one dialogue. And let's grab the parameters for that in Zeppelin. So it's this one right here. And it's this CSS here. So let's grab this. Let's paste that in here. And let's get rid of the box shadow. Okay. So again, npm run dev because we made changes to our config. And let's change our shadows here in our code. So instead of shadow MD, let's say shadow card. And where else are we using the shadow? So right here for the dialogue, shadow dialogue. And I believe that's it. Shadow card and shadow dialogue. Yep, that's it. Let's see if these shadows changed. And yeah, it did. There we go. Cool. Let's also make this a pointer. Actually, it is a pointer already. Actually, I want to make it a pointer for everything, including when we have our cursor here. Okay, so let's just add cursor pointer to that section up here. Where is it? Shadow card right here. We can say cursor pointer as well. Cursor pointer, and that should do it. And it does. Cool. So yeah, let me duplicate a few of these cards so we have more content. And then I'm just going to change the titles up a bit and also the status indicator here. So we have different statuses. So all of these statuses here. And there's also a slight change here. We have a blue background for the voted button. And we have blue for the number of votes if we voted already. Okay, so I duplicated the content and made some changes so it looks different. Again, it's all hard-coded for now. Later on, we'll make it more dynamic. So I've added this blue section to indicate that you voted already. So this button is blue and the number of votes is blue. And I've also added random titles and the status indicator for the different statuses here. So we have in progress, closed, implemented, and considering. So yeah, our design's looking pretty good. I think this is a good place to break. And in the next video, we'll continue working on this. So let's go ahead and make a commit here. Let's say git add, git commit, episode 3. Say design idea cards.